Hey everyone, Kyle here from Poseidon's Pets. So today what I got for you is I'm breaking down my first ever shrimp tank. So this is a dirted tank with a sand cap, and it did pretty well for plants, but it just kind of struggled for shrimp. They never really did well, and yeah, I got a good breeding colony out of there, but then the colony would crash, and every time I add shrimp to this tank, it just doesn't do well. They do okay for a while, and then they start to crash. So what I wanted to do is I'm gonna turn this into a Caridina tank. So absolutely excited to share some stuff with you guys. Not gonna reveal it yet, but long story short, I needed another Caridina tank. I am getting some new Caridina shrimp, which is exciting. And I needed some place to put them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this tank down, and that requires me to pull all these plants out. So these Cryptocorn balanceae, those big plants in the back, they've been growing for about 2 years. Their root system is super extensive. It almost expands. It almost spans the entire bottom of this tank. So trying to pull any of these plants up to sell them or get rid of them, it was just destroying the whole tank. You saw how it made a cloudy mess there. And eventually I did get it all out, and hopefully, I didn't have any shrimp that got buried or lost in the chaos of the swirl. But so you see me here just pulling all the shrimp out of this tank. So if you've seen my recent videos, you know that I broke down my Neocaridina tanks and I put them all into one tank, this tank here. And after I did that, the colony crashed. So that's what I was talking about, as far as they just don't do well in this tank for some reason. I don't know if it's because of the dirt, all the organic matter in there. It's just they'll be doing well and all of a sudden it crashes. So I have quite a bit of shrimp in there. You can see that a lot of the blues, a lot of the reds survived. So I ended up selling about half of these to one of my friends that came over. They grabbed a bunch of plants from me, grabbed some shrimp. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put these guys in my planted 60-gallon community tank. So I'm not getting rid of them. I'll still have Neocaridina shrimp, but they're just gonna go live their home in my planted tank, which this tank is, I don't want to say neglected, but it's kind of like a wild tank. I just let it do its thing. I do water changes, the plants go crazy, there's algae in there. So the shrimp are absolutely going to be happy to live in there, going to have all kinds of food. And as they breed, the fish will have some food source. So it's a circle of life. They'll breed, have babies, and then shrimp or the fish will eat them. So this tank was definitely a fun experiment. I took organic potting mix, put that down as about an inch layer, and then I capped it with sand. And the plants absolutely thrived in this tank. They did so well. And I definitely recommend it to anybody who wants to have a really nice planted tank and doesn't want to spend a lot of money on expensive substrate. It did well for plants. As far as fish go, I know a lot of people do this with their fish and it's fine, but for shrimp, they're a little bit more delicate. So if you have like a lot of that organic material and it starts breaking down, fluctuates the water parameters, I don't know if it's the perfect setup for shrimp. Maybe I was just doing something wrong, but having that dirt in there definitely helped those plants thrive. Now, I absolutely did my best to get all the shrimp out of there and as many snails as I can. I know that there's going to be some casualties when doing something like this, and it's upsetting to me, but I did the best I could. And then, of course, I tried to get everything out of there, but trying to get all that dirt scooped out by hand was a pain. I ended up just getting the water as low as I could and then carrying it down the stairs. Which, carrying this tank full of that little bit of water and the dirt in there down the stairs, that was a workout for sure. I don't know how much it weighed, but it was definitely heavier than I expected. So I got it outside, threw it up on the bench, and decided to just give it a nice deep clean. Let's get rid of all that algae, let's get rid of all the hard water. I found a little spider I didn't want to spray with the hose, so I was trying to get him out of there. It's like, come on, guy. And a little coaxing with some water, he got out of there. But I wanted to make sure that this tank was nice and clean, ready to go for the new Caridina setup. And if you're gonna be using any type of sponges, or like here I've got a toothbrush, make sure that those are items that you keep specifically for your fish tank. So this sponge, that toothbrush, these are things that I have sitting around. I don't use them for anything else, so no chemicals, no cleaners on there. So now I've got the tank nice and clean, back upstairs in its spot. Time to add our Brightwell floor and vulcanite. So Brightwell is my favorite substrate to use, and it's the substrate I use in all of my Caridina tanks. So if you are starting a new Caridina tank, I'll leave a card above on how to do that. I go into it a little bit here, but not into full detail. I just kind of show you what I did, not explaining too much about it. Putting the bag in there allows for the water to not really move those rocks around too much, and that's something that I've seen other YouTubers use as well. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to add our mineralizer to the tank, and then I'm going to let the tank just sit for a few days. So I want the water in that tank to do its thing as far as mix that mineralizer in there and have the pH balance, because whenever you remineralize RO water, it does do a pH fluctuation as the pH gets to its true form with adding that oxygen to there. And I'm not a chemist, so as far as going into detail there, I know when you add oxygen to water, it changes the pH. All right, time to add the salty shrimp GH Plus to get it ready for those Caridina shrimp. I also like to add some prime to any of my new tanks just to remove any hard metals, chlorine, chloramine, in case the RO unit missed that. I also like to use a few Brightwell products, which thank you to the Garden of Eater, Grant Eater over at his channel, for turning me on to a few of these. So this is Florid Multi, good for starting tanks, for plants, for shrimp. Then we add some black water, which adds some tannins, some humic and fulvic acids, as well as Florinbacter. This is a liquid bacteria that's going to help that cycle and help those sponges get going. And even though they are used sponges, I did clean them off with tap water, so it does have some chlorine in there, so we probably did have some bacteria loss. Just dosing with that bacteria is going to help a lot. Now we've got our sponge filters in there. This is my favorite part of a new tank. It's been a couple days, so now I'm going to add the plants, add some snails. We're gonna get this tank looking nice, so that way when we add our shrimp, it's all ready to go for them. So what I'm planting is, this is just a Cryptocorn Wendidii green, and I have some other crypts as well. Looks like some Cryptocorn Lucerne, as well as some more Wendidis, which I absolutely love Wendidii. They are such a easy plant and fast growing and propagating. All of these plants here you see came from just a couple mother plants, and I was able to sell off quite a few and still have enough to plant this tank again. And then of course we got some dwarf sage for some ground cover just in the front, which I'm not sure how well all these plants are gonna do in this substrate. Yes, it is a planted tank substrate, but it doesn't have a lot of the nutrients like some of your other substrates like ADA Amazonia, because it doesn't off-gas ammonia, so that's not producing nitrogen for your plants. So it's a good buffering substrate for shrimp, but it's not necessarily the best substrate for a planted tank. So we'll definitely have to see how well these plants do. With them being crypts, I'm not too worried. They don't require a whole lot, but for the piece de la resistance, time to add the shrimp. So what I did was I broke down my coal tank. So my Caridina coal tank, this tank here is now my Caridina mega coal tank. So it's a 29 gallon planted tank, and this is where I'm just gonna put all my coals. So any shrimp that doesn't fit my standards, I'm gonna go ahead and put them in this tank. And if you know me, I absolutely love this shot right here. Just that close-up shot of dropping all those shrimp into the tank, watching them go down like they're all coming out of the mothership like little aliens, which they do. They kind of look like little aliens. So I'm glad that these guys are in their new home and happy. But what shrimp tank wouldn't be complete without cholla wood? So absolutely love some cholla wood, and it is one of my all-time favorite driftwoods to add to any shrimp tank. And I'm waiting on some moss to add to this tank as well, but this is what we got so far. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave you guys to enjoy the coal shrimp, just feeding on some Shrimp King Complete. They absolutely love this stuff. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. And I know this was a little bit of a long video, but got some exciting things coming. So if you've made it this far, you are amazing. Do me a favor in the comments down below, just simply say the phrase, "I love your new coal tank." And that way I know that you made it to this bit and that you've watched the whole video, because I definitely appreciate the support. But thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.